And away we go, episode 1133 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Thursday, August 14th, 2025, and we now are 3 weeks away from the start of the NFL's 2025 regular season. The Dallas Cowboys at the Philadelphia Eagles on the NFL's opening night, Thursday, September 4th at 8:20. And then 3 days later, the Commanders' 2025 regular season opener home to the New York Giants on Sunday afternoon, September 7th at 1. Week 1 features 2 intra-division games in the NFC East. Also, this is the day after Sportico came out with its ranking of NFL teams in terms of value. Sportico ranked the Commanders as being the 10th most valuable NFL franchise at $7.47 billion. $7.47 billion. For comparison's sake, the Josh Harris Group in July 2023 bought the team for $6.05 billion. So from $6.05 billion in July 2023 to $7.47 billion in August 2025. My friends, we call that ROI, return on investment. Hello and welcome to this Thursday installment of the Al Galdi podcast, which follows Washington, D.C. area sports so that you don't have to. We on Wednesday had an off day at Commanders training camp. Next segment, a great guest, one of the most well-liked national NFL media personalities, Ross Tucker, host of the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. He is a former NFL guard, including having had multiple stints with the Redskins. So we with Ross are going to go in-depth on the Commanders. So Ross will address how they compare with the Super Bowl champion Eagles, for whom Ross serves as analyst for telecasts of preseason games. Ross will assess whether the Commanders' Jayden Daniels is the best quarterback in the NFC. Ross will give us his take on the contract situation with Commanders receiver Terry McLaurin. And Ross will provide excellent story time regarding his time with the Skins, including terrific anecdotes on 2 former and 2 very different Skins head coaches in Marty Schottenheimer and Steve Spurrier. Ross Tucker, next segment. And also on the show, I'll talk Nationals and Orioles. Each team won on Wednesday despite blowing a significant lead. The Nats, they on Wednesday afternoon won a crazy game, an 8-7 win at the Kansas City Royals to avoid a 3-game sweep. This was a game in which the Nats blew a 5-0 first-inning lead, and the game happened hours after reports that the Nats planned to activate outfielder Dylan Cruz from the 60-day injured list and have him available for Thursday evening's Game 1 of a 4-game series against the National League East leading Philadelphia Phillies at Nationals Park. The O's, they on Wednesday night notched their first walk-off win in MLB's 2025 regular season, a 4-3 walk-off win over the Seattle Mariners at Oriole Park at Camden Yards in a game in which the O's blew a 3-1 ninth-inning lead and in a game for which the start was delayed for an hour and 40 minutes due to rain. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Email from Keith Beeson on a potential tactic for the Commanders with receiver Terry McLaurin. Writes Keith, why wouldn't AP just give McLaurin a 5-day letter and make him decide then and there if he really wants to play for this team? He would have to report or else not play. The doctors could verify if he actually has an issue with his ankle. If he doesn't, then he has even less leverage than he thinks he has. I would think someone as smart as him would fully understand the gravity of what is happening here, unless he just doesn't want to participate in camp. But even proven veterans don't need camp to sync their play up to what it was in previous seasons. Great as always. Thank you for the email, Keith. Yeah, let's get into this. So in terms of actual official transactions with Terry McLaurin regarding 2025 Commanders training camp, he initially officially was a training camp holdout. He was on the reserve/did not report list from July 23rd to July 27th. The holdout on July 27th became a hold-in. He since that day has been on the active/physically unable to perform list. This due to an ankle injury that just about everyone believes is a cover for him to not practice. But technically speaking, he is on the active/physically unable to perform list, what is known as the preseason PUP list. One of the things that I have brought up regarding the Commanders overwhelmingly having the leverage in this situation is that McLaurin already is under contract for the 2025 season. The team has him for the 2025 season, and he's not sitting out the 2025 season. Why? A, this coming season will be his age 30 season, so him sitting out a year and then coming back for his age 31 season would only further the age concern. B, if McLaurin sat out the upcoming regular season, his contract would toll. In other words, he would not get credit for the season. He would not get what is called an accrued season, and he still would be under contract to the Commanders for the 2026 season. Now, a way for McLaurin to sit out the 2025 regular season but get credit for an accrued season and not have the contract toll would be for him to not play at all in the 2025 regular season due to, this ankle injury. And he already is on the preseason PUP list, so the team in essence has acknowledged a legitimacy with this injury. But McLaurin is only on the preseason PUP list. That list does not continue into the regular season. This is getting into the weeds here, but this is important. McLaurin in the cut down to 53 would have to be moved to another list for the purpose of the regular season in order to keep up the charade of being out with an ankle injury. That list officially is the reserve/physically unable to perform list, what is known as the regular season PUP list. So he, in order to keep up the charade of being out with an ankle injury, needs cooperation from the team from a transactional standpoint. How might the team challenge McLaurin on the validity of the ankle injury, given that the team already has acknowledged a legitimacy with the injury by placing him on the active/physically unable to perform list? Well, that is where this rarely used tactic of the 5-day letter potentially comes into play. And I say potentially because it's not clear whether this would be an option for the Commanders, given that McLaurin has reported to the team and has been at the team facility. But the 5-day letter is an interesting concept. Under the NFL Constitution and bylaws, a team can send a player a letter informing him that he can be put on the reserve/left squad list if he doesn't return within 5 days after leaving. Once placed on the reserve/left squad list, a player is prohibited from attending team meetings, practicing, and playing for the rest of the season. The letter must be sent in order for a player to be put on the reserve/left squad list. Also, the player's contract tolls to where it is frozen and resumes the next year. Could the Commanders use the 5-day letter as a means of challenging Terry McLaurin on the validity of this ankle injury should he try to use it to not play for the team in the regular season? Could the Commanders simply refuse to transfer McLaurin from the active/physically unable to perform list to the reserve/physically unable to perform list come the cut down to 53? Now, hopefully the situation does not become ugly and contentious to where we get answers to these questions, but the mechanics of this situation are interesting and not exactly clear. I would be surprised if General Manager Adam Peters has been outmaneuvered by McLaurin's agent, Buddy Baker, to where Peters has no recourse regarding McLaurin getting an accrued season if he uses the ankle injury as an excuse to sit out the entire 2025 regular season. The Commanders' front office, remember, is loaded with smart, experienced people regarding contracts, including Senior Vice President of Football Operations Brandon Sosna and Vice President of Football Administration Rob Rogers. Email from Jerry on the Terry McLaurin situation. Writes Jerry, "Hi Al. The Terry McLaurin contract dispute is so confusing to me as a fan. Of course, I am not very knowledgeable about these things, so I am reaching out to the one person who I know can explain to me in plain man's language why this is so complicated, Al Galdi." Oh boy. I have heard some of your explanations about team leverage and the data related to decline of receivers after the age of 30. I agree with your assessment that the team should pay for what a player is going to do and not what the player has done, and should take into consideration what the metrics say when determining the appropriate salary. What I don't understand is why the contract cannot be written in a way that allows Terry to prove the team wrong. Load up the contract with incentives that would be paid if the player performs at a level that merits higher payment. As my voice of reason for all DC sports-related issues, I am counting on you to tell me if I am oversimplifying a complex process. As always, thanks for all you do. Well, thank you very much for the email, Jerry. I'm sure that the Commanders would love to sign Terry McLaurin to a contract extension that guarantees him little money and is loaded with incentives and minimizes the risk for the club. But of course, McLaurin doesn't want such an extension. Incentive-laden contracts generally are one-year, low-money contracts for veteran players coming off injury or who are especially old or who have something to prove in some way. That's why those contracts often are called prove-it contracts. Terry McLaurin is far above a prove-it contract. He deserves substantial guaranteed money. He deserves big money. It's just that the Commanders don't want to give him the big money that he wants. They want to give him, shall we say, a smaller big money. By the way, this was ESPN's Peter Schrager on the Pat McAfee show on Wednesday afternoon on the Commanders and Terry McLaurin.
They need him, but at what cost? I think it's a fascinating one here because you can go in on Micah and Trey Hendrickson and you can talk about the numbers and APY and all this. Terry McLaurin is a fascinating case, and I talked about this weeks ago with you guys. It hasn't changed in that he wants a certain number, and I don't know the exact number, but it's a certain number of a certain caliber of wide receiver, and it's in that range of guys where he and his agent believe he belongs and has put the time in and has earned it and is more than just a player. He's the locker room. He's the face. He's everything. And I think the Washington side of it is, let's be realistic here. He's this years old. What's he going to be ascending to? Are we paying him on past performance? Adam Peters was with the Niners when they went through some brutal negotiations, and they usually found a way before the season started. They usually got things done. I think Adam Peters will find a way to get it done with his agent, Buddy Baker, who's an Indianapolis-based guy.
Legend.
For many years. And, of course, Terry is an Indianapolis-based guy. But right now it seems like they're a bit apart, and the guaranteed money might be the aspect, or it might just be APY. Whatever it is, they're not willing to just say, you know what? The last 3 years we stunk and you were the nicest guy and you were the best guy and you wore the C. We're going to reward you and then pay you on future. They want to pay him for what they think they're going to get in the future on that contract. And I don't know if they necessarily look at him as a Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson type player.
No, they don't. While we're discussing the Terry McLaurin situation, did you see what Commanders insider John Keim of ESPN had in an ESPN.com piece that came out on Wednesday morning? Headline, quote, "Why Commanders, WR, Terry McLaurin are at an impasse," end quote. Keim late in the piece said this regarding the team in July 2022, then under the ownership of Dan Snyder, signing McLaurin to a 3-year contract extension. Quote, "The last time McLaurin was up for an extension in 2022, multiple team sources involved in the negotiation said Snyder stepped into the process and told executives to work out a deal because, as one of the sources put it, the owner, quote, needed a win in the headlines," end quote. Snyder and the organization were being investigated by Congress and multiple state attorneys general over workplace culture and financial issues, end quote. Now, the contract extension to which the team signed McLaurin in July 2022 was a reasonable, acceptable contract extension, a 3-year extension with a reported $34.654 million fully guaranteed at signing. But the fact that Dan Snyder told team executives to work out a deal because, as one source said, Snyder, quote, needed a win in the headlines, end quote, that is, of course, ridiculous. Not surprising, but ridiculous. Up next, we talk Commanders with Ross Tucker. Hey, please consider subscribing to the Al Galdi podcast if you're not already doing that. Subscribing to the podcast costs nothing. Make sure that you never miss an episode and helps out the podcast a lot. And if you're already subscribing, thank you. I am very pleased to welcome to the Al Galdi podcast Ross Tucker, host of the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Ross has a variety of other media gigs, including serving as the analyst for telecasts of preseason games for the Philadelphia Eagles. Ross is a former NFL guard. He entered the NFL as an undrafted free agent out of Princeton by signing with the Redskins in April 2001. He was waived by the Skins in October 2002. He then was signed by the Skins as an unrestricted free agent in March 2007, but he in the 2007 preseason suffered a career-ending neck injury. You can follow Ross on X at Ross Tucker NFL, and Ross is with us courtesy of Future Fans Football, which helps fans pass on football fandom to their kids by teaching them the rules in a very unique way. Ross, good to talk to you. How are you?
Oh, great to talk with you as well. I'm fantastic, man. I'm fired up for football. I'm beyond fired up for all of the Redskin fans, Washington fans, Commander fans, whatever down there, including my sister and my nephew out there in Potomac, Maryland. I'm just so glad that you guys have something to be as excited as you are about it. It's funny. I know you're going to ask me about it, but I'll just say it. I work with this company called futurefans.com. And these guys have really like cracked the code for how to get young people to actually watch the games, learn and understand, as opposed to just being on their iPad. But the reason why I'm bringing it up, Al, is because I've gone on a couple other, Washington football centric shows. Nobody sells more of these things, or I guess nobody buys more of these things than Commanders fans right now. I mean, like, the excitement level around this team it must be at an all-time high, because anytime I go on any type of Washington, DC football show or radio show, so many people go to futurefans.com because they realize these guys have cracked the code in terms of how to get your 4-year-old or your 6-year-old or your 8-year-old to sit there and watch the game. I think so many people just want their kids to be with them while they're watching Jayden Daniels, while they're watching this team go on their run, kind of like they probably did with their dads when it was Riggins and the Hogs and whatever back in the day. So I can tell just by the futurefans.com sales when I go on different shows, which is, by the way, one of the reasons why I'm coming on your show. I can just tell you guys might be the number one market right now in terms of people buying these storybook-led activity boxes from futurefans.com, which I think speaks highly and says a lot about just how fired up people are now.
Makes a lot of sense. We have the Future Fans football product in our house, and my son, who's about to turn 8, keeps asking me to do Future Fans football with him, so I get the appeal. When it comes to the Commanders potentially having closed the gap with the Super Bowl champion Eagles, who you know well, do you see the gap as having been closed?
Well, so it's interesting because before the NFC Championship game, I was going on a bunch of shows in the Washington area, and I was even talking with a lot of the writers before the game. And I can't remember the exact number, Al, but off the top of my head, I think we came up with like 4, maybe 5 guys for Washington that would start for the Eagles. Right. So, and that's saying Jayden Daniels, a quarterback, and Terry McLaurin at receiver. And by the way, even those are debatable, right? I mean, there's certainly Eagles fans that would tell you they'd rather have Hurts, and there's Eagles fans that would say they'd rather have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith than Terry, whatever, right? So, but the point is even if you were giving Washington the benefit of the doubt, there was only 4, maybe 5 guys for Washington that would start for the Eagles. That it's hard to win if that's the case. I mean, it's hard to beat the other team if that's the case. But it was. I mean, you look across the O-line, you look at the D-line. I mean, there just weren't that many guys that would start for the Eagles. I do think through attrition with the Eagles and perhaps even injury, depending on how serious the Landon Dickerson injury is. But I do think with attrition for the Eagles, with some retirements and some guys losing Josh Sweat and Darius Slay and Milton Williams, Mekhi Becton, et cetera, in free agency, and with some of the additions that the Commanders made, I think you can certainly say that they've closed the gap there, Now, that's not the same as saying that their roster is as good as the Eagles. It's not. That their team is as good as the Eagles. They're not. But the question really, Al, is are they close enough now that, Jayden Daniels, if he takes even another step in year 2, are they close enough that perhaps they'll be able to win in a playoff game scenario when it really matters the most, or maybe even win the division? I don't know. The point being is they certainly feel like they're closer than they were last year.
With the Commanders, Jayden Daniels, look, we get it. He has only had one NFL season, but it was an all-time great rookie season. His football acumen, his physical traits, his work ethic, all of that is superb. The bulk of the great quarterbacks in the NFL right now, of course, are in the AFC. Is it accurate to say that Jayden Daniels right now is the best quarterback in the NFC?
Well, so number one, I don't think it's debatable that he had the best rookie season we've ever seen. Okay. And interestingly, All right. I made the same argument for CJ Stroud the year before. If you really look, there's guys, Andrew Luck had a really good rookie year, and Matt Ryan, and there's people that had good rookie years. But I really believe that CJ Stroud a year ago probably had the best one I had seen. And then the very next year, Daniels is even more impressive. And that's because I think he had less around him. And I think, what he adds with the running that Stroud really doesn't. And then the playoff success, right? I mean, to win that playoff game in Detroit, it's incredibly, incredibly impressive, right? So I think, number one, he had the best rookie season ever. Now, there's a pretty good history of quarterbacks actually having a little bit of like a sophomore or second-year slump. I would say that happened to Stroud last year. I would say that happened to Jordan Love. Even though it wasn't his second year, it was his second year as a starter. And I think Jordan sort of took a step back and was a little bit more inconsistent. That is within the realm of possibilities for Daniels because two things happen, Al. Number one, obviously, people are going to study him very, 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 very closely, right? And come up with new stuff that they didn't do last year to see if it works against him. The other thing is, and I think people discount this, but a lot of times when a guy has like an awesome first year, the next year, the coaches get so excited that they put a lot on his plate. They put more on his plate in terms of protections and audibles and all kinds of things because they're excited about him, because they know he's good and they think he can handle it. And I think that sometimes contributes to a second-year slide a little bit. I don't know if that will be the case with Daniels. What I do know is I do think, you can make an argument for Hurts. You can make an argument for Matthew Stafford. But I think the strongest argument you can make for the best quarterback in the NFC, I think it's Jayden Daniels. I think he has the strongest argument based on the one-year sample size. People will say it's only 1 year, but I guess my retort would be, yeah, but it's the only year, this is what we've seen. So I would say yes. I would think certainly if you're looking for the next 10 years, people would take Jayden Daniels. And I think you could still make a very strong argument to take him just for this year as the best quarterback in the NFC.
We're talking Commanders with former Skins guard Ross Tucker, host of the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. The number one topic during 2025 Commanders training camp has been the situation with receiver Terry McLaurin, including him having requested to be traded while in the midst of stalled contract extension negotiations. Covering the NFL like you do, how do you view McLaurin among NFL receivers? Top 5, top 10, top 15, top 20? I say top 10 to top 15, but what say you?
I don't think he's top 5. In fact, I'm very confident in saying that. I think he's either at the bottom of the top 10 or he's at the top of the top 15. So I would put him off the top of my head without actually listing it out, probably somewhere between 8 to 12, 8 to 13. But more importantly, Al, he's the best that the Commanders have. So we can have a debate about whether he's the 6th best or the 9th best or the 14th best or whatever. But the reality is he's clearly the Commanders' number one. And he's a guy that they need, certainly for this year and next year, desperately. All the moves they've made to bring in veterans, like Laramie Tunsil or Dietrich Wise or, even some of the guys on defense like Jonathan Jones, you don't bring those guys, Von Miller. It makes no sense to bring in veterans that you're trying to have help you get over the hump and then not have Terry McLaurin. My personal opinion is he's going nowhere and he'll miss no games. I'm sure they have a date in mind where they really want to get him out there and start to get him ramped up. They probably don't feel like that's yet, and they probably are okay with him not having the injury risk and also being able to get more reps out of some of the other guys. Debo's there for the first year, Luke McCaffrey, etc. Get more work for them. But I'm sure the Commanders have a date in mind where it's like, okay, it's go time. We want to make sure he and Jayden are in a rhythm, ready to roll by the time the season starts. And so I would expect, both sides to kind of meet in the middle where he gets some financial security and the team gets him under contract at not quite the average per year he's looking for. Kind of reminds me a little bit of like the contract that James Cook recently signed with the Bills, where I know Cook wanted more than $12 million a year, but that's the number that the Bills wanted on the cap. And in turn, Cook got the financial security of the $30 million guaranteed. My guess is Terry gets the financial security of guarantees for this year and next, and the team gets per year more in line with what they're hoping to get.
I did want to ask you about your time with the Redskins. You really had quite the journey, signed by the Skins as an undrafted free agent while Marty Schottenheimer was the team's head coach and director of football operations. You remained with the Skins through the transition to Steve Spurrier being the team's head coach. And then you got brought back by the Skins as a free agent while Joe Gibbs was the team's president and head coach. How do you look back upon your time with the Skins?
Yeah, fondly. And, what I always say, Al, to people is that I am the worst player that played for Schottenheimer, Spurrier, and Gibbs. Because if you last through three coaches, okay, you're like Chris Samuels or John Jansen. I mean, you're like a pillar. You're a stalwart that stays there no matter what the regime change is. That was not me, right? Schottenheimer loved me. I actually ended up starting all 5 preseason games. The next year was Spurrier, but they ended up cutting me midway through the year. I went out and played for 4 other teams, 02, 03, 04, 05, 06, and then I came back in 07. And thankfully, not only did John Jansen and Chris Samuels put a word in for me, but Greg Williams, who had been my head coach with the Buffalo Bills, put a word in for me. And I got signed back again in 07 with Coach Gibbs. Unfortunately, I herniated a disc in my neck, and that's what ended my career. But I look back on it fondly, primarily because, they were the only team that gave me a chance. They gave me an opportunity that when nobody else would. And then in particular, right, Marty Schottenheimer, not a lot of people, okay? Not a lot of people give undrafted free agents a great opportunity. And that's exactly what Schottenheimer did. He cut a draft pick. I think it was Mario Mons, but he really gave us a blank slate. And because of that, I was able to fulfill my dream of making an NFL roster. I was the 9th O lineman out of 9. And, I'll never forget that day as long as I live. I get chills just talking to you about it. I mean, after I found out I was on the team, I had to go back to Reading, Pennsylvania, where I'm from, to get the rest of my clothes and stuff, and some furniture for an apartment. And, that drive where I called, my parents, my girlfriend, who's now my wife, my high school coach, my college coach, my grandfather. I mean, that's about as special of a 2-hour period as I've ever had in my life.
That's so cool to hear. Of the many, and I mean many, mistakes made by Dan Snyder during his time as Washington owner, you could argue that his biggest football mistake was firing Marty Schottenheimer after just one season as the Skins head coach and director of football operations. The Skins in the 2001 regular season went from 0-5 to 8-8, had a good thing going, and then the plug got pulled. Not to put you on the spot, but Do you have a great Steve Spurrier story that you could share with us?
Well, first of all, I can't even describe in words the difference between going from Marty Schottenheimer to Steve Spurrier. I mean, it was like going from Marine boot camp to a country club. I mean, it was. And by the way, as a player, you're happy to go to the country club. You know, like you're happy that it's not as hard or whatever. But man, I could tell you so many, Al. I mean, a couple that jump off would be the first day of training camp. Okay, so the year before, both of my training camps, 01, 02, were at Dickinson College in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. And 01, Marty Schottenheimer gave a speech to open camp. I'm telling you, Al, the hair on the back of my neck stood up. I was ready to run through a brick wall for that dude, right? Like, he's my favorite. Not only is he my favorite coach I ever had, but I think he's the best coach I ever had. And people will look at, resumes and they'll say, oh my gosh, you had Bill Parcells, you had Bill Belichick or Spurrier or Joe Gibbs. And I recognize that. I'm just telling you, based on the way they ran the organization and the operation, I was most impressed by Marty Schottenheimer. Then the next year, okay, we're back at Dickinson College. Spurrier's opening speech, Al, is, men, I went to 12 of these here training camps when I was a player, and, I can't remember one good thing we ever got out of it, but Mr. Snyder wants us to be here, so let's go out there tomorrow and try to get something done. I mean, like, that was the speech. Like, I mean, can you imagine if we won the Super Bowl that year and that was, like, on the highlight video? I mean, I could give you a zillion stories, but that kind of sets the tone. He was – I'm actually he's not a bad guy. I have nothing negative to say about him as a person, but I'm, like, amazed that he had the success in college that he did, because I was not impressed with how he ran an organization.
Outstanding. That story is vintage, Steve Spurrier. Former Skins guard Ross Tucker, host of the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. And don't forget to check out Future Fans Football at futurefans.com. Ross, thanks. All the best.
Sounds great, Al. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right. Catering by Uptown provides catering to perfection. Whatever event you're planning, especially a wedding, visit cateringbyuptown.com. Mention that Al Galdi sent you and see what Catering by Uptown can do for you. Catering by Uptown provides both great service and a great price. Catering by Uptown is a family business. It's run by the Pereiras, who are great Commanders fans and loyal supporters of this podcast. Catering by Uptown specializes in handling everything so that you don't have to. Catering by Uptown understands that special events deserve to be celebrated in style and thus takes care of every detail so that you can enjoy your event. Great service, amazing cuisine, and reliability are the foundation of what makes Catering by Uptown one of the most referred caterers throughout Maryland, Washington, D.C., and Northern Virginia. And know this, if you visit cateringbyuptown.com and click on venues, you can set up your own personal tour of one of Catering by Uptown's premier venues, including outstanding waterfront venues. Catering by Uptown offers the ability to coordinate services at over 100 of the best reception halls, vineyards, farms, historic homes, event venues, banquet facilities, and wedding venues in the area. Visit cateringbyuptown.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. That's cateringbyuptown.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. Well, at last, Nationals outfielder Dylan Crews is coming back. We on Wednesday afternoon had reports that the Nats plan to activate him from the 60-day injured list and have him available for Thursday evening's Game 1 of a 4-game series against the National League East leading Philadelphia Phillies at Nationals Park. Good news, exciting news. It broke shortly before the Nats game on Wednesday afternoon. What was a wild game, an 8-7 win at the Kansas City Royals to avoid a 3-game sweep. This was a game in which the Nats blew a 5-0 first-inning lead. The Nats in MLB's 2025 regular season now are 48-72, so we are now about 3/4 of the way through the Nats 2025 regular season, 120 games down, 42 games to go. More on the win shortly, but Dylan Crews, he on Wednesday afternoon concluded a 13-game minor league rehab stint with the Nats AAA affiliate, the Rochester Red Wings, and he's now poised to return from a near 3-month absence from the majors. The Nats on May 21st announced having placed Crews on the 10-day injured list with a left oblique strain. The Nats on July 22nd announced having transferred Crews to the 60-day injured list. How he does the rest of this season is key to how we should view this Nats rebuild that isn't going well going forward. Crews is a centerpiece of the rebuild. The Nats took him out of LSU with the number 2 overall pick in the 2023 MLB draft, but over 305 plate appearances over the 2024 and 2025 MLB regular seasons has an OPS of just 629. He has not done all that well at the major league level, although in fairness to him, his StatCast data for this regular season is better than his actual stats for this regular season. In other words, he has been hitting balls hard to where he has deserved to have gotten better results. Going to be interesting to see what the corresponding roster move to the activation of Dylan Crews will be. I think that the move should be the optioning of infielder Jose Tena to AAA Rochester. He's barely playing right now, but we'll see. Optioning Tena would leave the Nats with 5 outfielders on the active major league roster: James Wood, Dylan Crews, Jacob Young, Robert Hassel III, and Dalen Lyle. As for this 8-7 win at the Royals on Wednesday afternoon, another good offensive game for the Nats. Their offense has come alive over the last 5 games. The Nats on Wednesday afternoon, 8 runs, 10 hits, 6 walks, 3 for 12 with runners in scoring position. The 10 hits were 2 home runs, 2 doubles, and 6 singles. The Nats battered the Royal starting pitcher Seth Lugo. He allowed 7 runs, 6 earned in 4 innings. James Wood had at least 1 hit for a 6th consecutive game. He is the Nats starting left fielder and number 1 batter. Went 1 for 5 with a single and a stolen base. He became just the 4th Nats player since the franchise moved to Washington, D.C. in the 2004-2005 offseason to have a regular season in which the player had at least 25 home runs and at least 15 stolen bases. The other 3 players, Alfonso Soriano in 2006, Ian Desmond in 2012, and Lane Thomas in 2023. C.J. Abrams, he is the Nats starting shortstop and number 2 batter, went 1 for 4 with a solo homer and a walk. Nathaniel Lowe, he is the Nats starting first baseman and number 5 batter, went 1 for 3 with a grand slam and 2 walks. So Lowe in the Nats 5-run first had a 1-out grand slam to right field on a 1-2 pitch for a 4-0 Nats lead. This was the Nats' first grand slam in a regular season game since April 27th, 2024. The Nats do not hit grand slams these days. At last hit one on Wednesday afternoon. Nathaniel Lowe has not had a good season. His OPS for this regular season is just 665, but a big hit on Wednesday afternoon. Dalen Lyle, he is the Nats starting right fielder and number 6 batter, went 2 for 5 with an RBI single and another single. Lyle in a Nats 1-run ninth had a 2-out RBI single to right field for an 8-7 Nats lead. Lyle for this month of August has an OPS of 835. Drew Millis, he is the Nats starting catcher and number 7 batter, went 1 for 2 with an RBI double and a walk. And Brady House, he started for the first time in 3 games in this series. He is the Nats starting third baseman and number 8 batter, went 2 for 4 with an RBI single and another single. He did get thrown out in an attempted steal of second base. Also key for the Nats in this 8-7 win at the Royals on Wednesday afternoon was the Nats bullpen. 5 Nats relievers combined to allow 1 run in 5 innings. Connor Pilkington tossed a scoreless and hitless bottom of the 5th with 2 called strikeouts. P.J. Poulin tossed 2/3 of a scoreless inning. He in the bottom of the 6th faced 4 batters and got 2 outs as he began the bottom of the 6th by issuing a walk and a hit by pitch. But Cole Henry tossed 1 1/3 scoreless innings. Clayton Beeter allowed 1 run in 2/3 of an inning. He in the bottom of the 8th faced 3 batters and got 2 outs, but allowed a run on a single, 2 stolen bases, and a sac fly to tie the game at 7. But Jose A. Ferrer tossed 1 1/3 scoreless innings, despite giving up a double and 2 singles. I tell you, Ferrer, as the Nats closer, as the Nats ace reliever so far, doing a pretty good job. However, there was a big-time negative for the Nats in this 8-7 win at the Royals on Wednesday afternoon, and that negative was starting pitcher Jake Irvin. He was handed a 5-0 lead before he threw a single pitch in the game, and yet he allowed 6 runs in 4 innings. This game set up for Irvin to work quickly, throw strikes, and eat up innings, and instead he lasted for just 4 innings, what were 4 bad innings. Irvin gave up 7 hits, which were a home run and 6 singles. He issued 4 walks, a hit by pitch, and a wild pitch. He recorded just 3 strikeouts. He threw a lot of balls, 83 pitches, just 46 strikes versus 37 balls. And Irvin's first inning struggles continued. He in the bottom of the first allowed 2 runs on 2 singles, 2 walks, and a wild pitch. Jake Irvin now for this regular season, 25 starts, ERA of 5.14. That is the 4th worst ERA among all qualified pitchers in the majors. WHIP of 1.38, a first inning ERA of 10.08. That is the worst first inning ERA among all qualified pitchers in the majors. He is not having a good season. This is his 3rd season pitching at the major league level, and the results just have not been good. Irvin, over the last 3 regular seasons, 82 starts, ERA of 4.69, WHIP of 1.32. He and fellow Nats starting pitcher Mitchell Parker are really struggling right now. But the Nats did win on Wednesday afternoon. Here was Nats interim manager Miguel Cairo during his post-game session with reporters on Wednesday on the win, and then you'll hear a follow-up exchange with Nats insider Andrew Golden of the Washington Post.
I tell you, they've been ready. They're settling down. They've been doing an excellent job. Today it was a team effort, offense, pitching. That's what we ask him, and they've been playing the game the right way. It was a good thing today. The bullpen came through for Irvin, and our hitters, man, they're making some adjustment. They swinging strikes, making the starting pitcher work, and the result has been there.
Most of these bullpen guys weren't here when the season began. I guess what have you learned about them in the past couple of weeks, and what did you learn about them even today?
That, like I said before, we're gonna try to see who can perform, and we're gonna give it a chance to see what they got, and it's a job to be taken and to show the front office and show the organization that they belong to the big leagues, and so far it's been outstanding. They've been doing a really good job, and I think we're going up a little bit and playing really good baseball, running the bases good, playing good defense, and just got to keep doing the little things that win games.
Keep doing the little things, something that the man who Miguel Cairo replaced as Nats manager, Davey Martinez, used to say all of the time. Cairo, to me, is Davey Martinez 2.0. Next up for the Nats is a 4-game series against the National League East leading Philadelphia Phillies at Nationals Park. Game 1 Thursday evening at 6:45. Brad Lord will be the Nats starting pitcher, and he'll oppose former Nats prospect Jesus Luzardo. Well, the Orioles in their 120th game in MLB's 2025 regular season finally got their first walk-off win in MLB's 2025 regular season. A 4-3 walk-off win over the Seattle Mariners at Oriole Park at Camden Yards on Wednesday night in Game 2 of a 3-game series. This was a game for which the start was delayed for an hour and 40 minutes due to rain. The O's in this game blew a 3-1 ninth-inning lead, but the O's won and in walk-off fashion and snapped a 3-game losing streak to get back. Joe Angel in the win column.
And the Orioles again in the win column.
Yes, Joe, the win column. The O's now are 54-66. The O's in this game were so-so offensively. 4 runs, 9 hits, 2 walks, 0 for 3 with runners in scoring position. The 9 hits were a home run, a triple, 2 doubles, and 5 singles. Jackson Holliday was the walk-off hero. He is the Orioles starting second baseman and number 1 batter. Went 1 for 5 with a walk-off RBI double. He really has been struggling. His OPS for this regular season is just .691. What had been an encouraging season for the man who the O's took with the number 1 overall pick in the 2022 MLB draft, all of a sudden has not been so encouraging, but a big hit on Wednesday night. And it is important to remember that this is just his age 21 season. He is extremely young. Ryan Mountcastle, he is the Orioles starting DH and number 5 batter, went 2 for 3 with a solo homer, a single, and a walk. Gunnar Henderson, he is the Orioles starting shortstop and number 3 batter, went 1 for 4 with a double. Henderson has gotten going. His OPS for this regular season now is .821. But no Orioles player is going as well as starting pitcher Trevor Rogers. He, in this 4-3 walk-off win over the Mariners on Wednesday night, tossed another gem. He allowed 1 run in 7 innings with 6 strikeouts versus no walks. He gave up just 4 hits, which were a triple and 3 singles. He threw a ton of strikes, 95 pitches, 72 strikes, just 23 balls. He had a strikes to balls ratio of better than 3-1. Trevor Rogers now at the major league level this regular season, 11 starts, ERA of 1.43, whip of 0.81. He has been sensational. He entered this game with a wins above replacement per Baseball Reference for this regular season of 3.4, a massive total over just 10 games. And of course, that total will be even higher with the updated WAR stats when they come out on Baseball Reference on Thursday morning. During Orioles interim manager Tony Mansolino's postgame press conference on Wednesday night, had this exchange.
Do you think Trevor Rogers deserves the respect of an ace at this point? 11
from that Boston outing until now, yeah, he's one of the best in the game. An ace is somebody that does it year after year. You know, you can say the same thing about Kyle Bradish. He's pretty damn good too, but for me, aces are guys that do it year after year, 2, 3, 4-year stretches, and they stay healthy. Those are aces. Has he pitched like an ace? Absolutely. But an ace does it for a longer stretch of time. Does he have the potential to do that? Absolutely, and I really hope so for us and for him.
Yeah, Trevor Rogers is not an ace, not yet, but he has been outstanding. Easily the number 1 bright spot for the O's right now. During Rogers' post-game session with reporters on Wednesday night, had this exchange between Orioles insider Rock Kabatko of MASNsports.com at Rogers.
It just pretty much feel like every start you've been making lately as far as just look like everything's working for you?
Yeah, just like I've said in the past, just staying within my process and staying just what's been working within these 5 days, just really not trying to change too much. Working on small things in bullpens in between starts, some small things I need to clean up, but I really like where I'm at, and, I'm just really not trying to do too much and just continue to keep what I'm doing.
All right, so Trevor Rogers in this 4-3 walk-off win over the Mariners on Wednesday night again was great, but the Orioles' relief pitching did falter as the O's blew a 3-1 ninth-inning lead. 3 Orioles relievers combined to allow 2 runs in 2 innings. Now, Dietrich Enns was good again. He tossed a scoreless top of the 8th with 2 swinging strikeouts, but Yennier Cano officially allowed 2 runs in a third of an inning. He and the Mariners' 2-run ninth faced 3 batters, but got just 1 out as he gave up a leadoff single and then issued a walk. Keegan Aiken in the top of the 9th faced 2 batters and got 2 outs, the first of which was an RBI sac fly to tie the game at 3. So the O's still are finding their way in terms of 9th innings, with closer Felix Bautista now done for the season due to a right shoulder injury. During Tony Mansolino's postgame press conference on Wednesday night, had this exchange between O's insider Rich Dubroff of BaltimoreBaseball.com and Mansolino.
How difficult was that the top of the 9th inning for you?
Not for me, for the team. It's not me. I mean, it's the guys that are playing their butts off all game, and we got to try to figure out how to get the 9th inning solved. That's 2 of them now here in the last few days, and then, the one that we tied up in Chicago too. So Other guys will get opportunities. It's a great opportunity for the guys who are getting thrown in there. At some point, they just got to kind of grab it and go. I definitely, there's a contingent in baseball that thinks the ninth inning is just another inning and anybody can close. I'm going to say I disagree. I think it's a very unique inning, and it changes emotions and feelings and all the things that kind of go into the things that great closers have. So it's a different inning, and guys are going to have to learn how to pitch in it.
Yes, they are. Game 3 for the O's against the Mariners at Oriole Park at Camden Yards Thursday afternoon at 1:05. Tomoyuki Sagano will be the Orioles starting pitcher. And that'll do it for you and me for now. Keep the feedback coming. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Friday show, episode 1134. We'll have much more on the Commanders. And on Friday show, we'll talk Nationals and Orioles. The Nats are home to the Philadelphia Phillies Thursday evening at 6:45 in Game 1 of a 4-game series. The O's are home to the Seattle Mariners Thursday afternoon at 1:05 in Game 3 of a 3-game series. Have a great rest of your Thursday, and I'll talk to you on Friday.
Then the next year, okay, we're back at Dickinson College. Spurrier's opening speech, Al, is, "Men, you know, I went to 12 of these here training camps when I was a player, and, you know, I can't remember one good thing we ever got out of it, but Mr. Snyder wants us to be here, so let's go out there tomorrow and try to get something done." I mean, like, that was the speech.